My name is Bob Hilland, and I presently serve as one of the unit chiefs at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I've served the FBI since 1997. Before that, I was a police officer for many years. It's a privilege for me to talk to you today to briefly share some of my experiences on that horrible day of September 11th and some of the lessons I learned. So forgive me as I do my best to try to talk through it. It's a very significant day for me and for a lot of people, and I'm just one of thousands of stories. So I appreciate those of you who take the time to listen today. So September 11th of 2001, I was assigned to the New York office of the FBI. New York is home for me. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and New Jersey originally. I grew up in the New York skyline. So it's home for me. This morning, ironically, I had had an argument with my wife. We had two small children. My son was 6 at the time, my daughter about 4. And the argument was I was spending too much time working cases, too much time away from them. And just, I needed to be more present with my family. And that day I was driving to work reflecting on the argument we had had. I drove the same route like Groundhog Day on the Jersey Turnpike, got to the Hilland Tunnel. It was a beautiful morning. It was bright and clear. The Hilland Tunnel has about 14 lanes of traffic that ultimately merge into 2 tunnels. So you can imagine the bottleneck during rush hour. So you really don't drive, you really creep up inch by inch. I was at the toll plaza about to go in the tunnel on the Jersey side. At the time, you had clear line of sight across the river, and you could see the New York skyline. And as I'm inching my way, trying to get in front of the next car to make my way in the tunnel, I looked up, and I don't know that I was cognizant of the airplane before the impact. I just remember kind of reflecting on my life. And then I saw what we've all seen. I saw the impact of the plane hit the South Tower. And I remember this giant mushroom effect where the flames poured out of the side and just completely engulfed the tower. And to be quite honest with you, I thought I was daydreaming. I thought I was having like an out-of-body experience. I looked to the cars on either side of me that were parked or in traffic, I should say, to see if anybody else was seeing what I was seeing. There was a lady next to me on the left who she was putting her mascara on, late for work or so, filling that paper. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. I look in the rearview mirror, and the fellow behind me opens up his car door, and he's standing out, and he's on a cell phone, and I see him pointing towards the tower. So now I know what I'm seeing is not a dream, it's real. And almost at that same moment, the FBI radio came on in the car, directing all FBI agents to report, obviously, towards the World Trade Center, the corner of Church and Vesey. Almost instantly, the traffic started moving. I got in the tunnel, and for some reason, I called my father and said, "Hey, Dad, a plane just hit the tower." And he's kind of an old New York guy. He's like, "You're crazy." I said, "Dad, I'm pretty sure a plane just hit the tower." And then I called my supervisor, a great lady named Michelle Campanella. And she was at 26 Federal Plaza, which our FBI office, just as a matter of perspective, is about 3 blocks from where the World Trade Center is. And she was, I think, on the 23rd floor at the time. And she's in the squad area, and she answers the phone. And I said, "Michelle, it's Bobby." She said, "Huge explosion here." And I said, "Michelle, a plane just hit the South Tower." And I could hear her yell out to the other personnel, the other agents, and Bobby's on the phone. He says, "A plane just hit the South Tower." And she says, "What do you think?" I said, I don't know. It was a pretty big plane. We really didn't know at first, of course. We didn't know if it was a freak accident. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Everybody was kind of trying to figure out what happened. When I come out of the tunnel, now I'm on the Manhattan side, it was chaos. Once I got out of the Hilland Tunnel, the FBI New York office is literally about 2-3 minutes from coming out of the tunnel. I remember the sirens, NYPD, the fire department, Port Authority, everybody's responding. I pulled up in front or on the side of our FBI office at 26 Federal Plaza. I tripled. I mean, it was pure chaos. And I remember a couple of agents seeing me. And I was going to the trunk, and they said, "Hey, do you have an extra raid jacket?" I'll never forget that. Opening up my trunk and going through whatever gear I have in the back, searching for jackets for my colleagues, FBI raid jacket, the blue and the gold ones. I never saw the second plane, but I sure as heck heard it. It was this incredible sound, this deep boom. And when it hit, you have to understand, we were 3.5, 4 blocks away, and there's a lot of buildings between us and the impact. You could feel the percussion of that from that distance. So we got the raid jackets, we've got our portable radios, and we keep hearing the report to go to the corner church in Vesey. So my colleagues and I, we gather our stuff, and we go down this particular street called Reed Street, and we turn left on the main avenue called Church Street. Ironically, Church Street, it just dawned on me right now, Church. And Church is a very wide street, and it leads directly to the World Trade Center South Tower. And I remember as we're jogging and we turn left onto Church, best way I can describe it to you is some kind of Steven Spielberg movie where there were thousands of people, civilians, that were running this way, away from the towers. And we're trying to run, of course, towards it. Of course, there's fire trucks pushing through as best they can, Port Authority cars, NYPD cars. Everybody's trying to do the right thing. And there was just slew of people. We had our FBI jackets on. And I remember one guy seeing us and yelling out and saying, "Go get them, guys." Won't forget that. We got about half a block away from the South Tower. There was a group of civilians. They were in the middle of the road. And they were looking down at the street. I didn't quite understand what they were looking at. When I got closer, what happened was one of the jet engines from one of the planes had obviously broken off from the impact. And it kind of looked like a meteor that had burrowed itself inside into the road. So imagine you come up on this crater, if you will, and there's a jet engine in the middle of the street. Then as we got closer to the corner church in Vesey, right across from South Tower, then you started seeing the damage. You started seeing people that were hurt, people that had been killed, and it was chaos. So we are told to go to the corner church in Vesey, which was on an angle across from the South Tower. If you can imagine, both planes are embedded in the towers. And now, of course, now we know this is not an accident. We know, and we're thinking, are other planes coming? We had no idea. We're trying to contribute to what's going on. The firemen are pulling up, the Port Authority, everybody's doing their thing, going into the towers. And I remember just people pouring out. We did our best to kind of usher people and shuttle them out. And we kept getting the call to go to the corner church in Vesey, which again, across the street. It was impressive to see people helping other people. So people who had some kind of handicap, couldn't walk, people were carrying them. Old people, it was pretty remarkable to see people helping each other. The inside of the World Trade Center, if you've never been inside, it was beautiful. It was this white marble. I felt like the lobby must have been 70 feet tall. It was just majestic. And it was chaos inside. And people were obviously hysterical. The sights, the sounds were just, I don't know the words to describe it. But then I remember as we get close, there was a Port Authority cop that stopped us. Because there were people out of the tower, or some of them were falling. And it was one of those things I'll never forget. There's no way for me to quite describe what that was like, to see people hit like that. And if I could describe it, I don't know that I would want to. We're doing our best to help people out of this tower. And finally, we make our way to the corner church in Vesey. And there's probably about, stand in the corner waiting for direction. The New York FBI office is the flagship office of the FBI. So there's hundreds of agents that work there, and everybody's responding. NYPD, a bunch of people are there, and all of a sudden, one of the bosses for the FBI shows up. He was a nice guy. And he's stressed like we all are. And he looks at us and he says, we're going to take over this building, which was catty corner from the tower, directly across the street. And we're going to set up a forward command post, is what we were told. So to describe this building, the first lobby as well, it had no windows. It was concrete exterior. And to get in, it had those heavy glass doors, much like you'd see at a shopping center, with the big brass handles, right? Where you pull them open, they're clear glass, and then you walk probably another 12, 14 feet, and there's a second set of doors that open up. So a bunch of us go in, first responders, NYPD, Port Authority, us, we go in there. And I remember there was like a reception area, it was like a circular thing, and then we went over to the left. And if you can imagine like an open cubicle area, and we're told to everybody to take a desk. And the boss was given direction, hey, Bob, you call this person, Joe, you call this, Harry, you call this. And the instruction I got was, I was told to call back to the FBI New York office 4 blocks away. We have a command post, basically an operations center. It's always working 24 hours a day. My job was to establish a landline with the FBI New York office while everybody else was calling Washington, wherever else. So I do. I go to this, and I don't know that I'm fairly describing the chaos. You know, there's a couple dozen, if not 3 dozen people all busy making calls, doing stuff. So I pick up the phone and I call back to the command post, to the op center at 26 Fed. And once I identify myself, I ask to speak to whoever is in charge, whoever the boss is. An SAC gets on the phone, Bob Courtier, good guy, former Marine, all business. And I'll never forget, he got on the phone, he said, Courtier, who's this? I said, sir, this is Bob Hilland. He said, Bobby, where are you? I said, sir, we're across our Center Patrol Command Post. He says, who's in charge? So I told him who was there. And he says, get him on the phone. Now, the boss that was on the set that day, on the scene, I should say, was a good man. I would describe him at the time, he was probably in his late 40s, early 50s. And he was the kind of guy that my impression of him was he probably didn't take too good care of himself back then. He was from the older generation, probably smoked a lot, maybe drank. And he was stressed like we all were. I remember him coming over to my desk, and I had my hand on the receiver, and I said, hey, I've got the boss on the phone. And he walks, and he's got this high-ranking NYPD deputy chief with him. And I hand the phone to the boss. It was very sad to see, because as soon as he got the receiver, he basically started having like a breakdown. It was very sad. He was feeling what we were all feeling. I remember him talking to the boss and saying, they were under attack, and he's expressing his stress and his anxiety, and he's tripping over his own words. He's very stressed. I can't hear, of course, the other side of the conversation. I can only see what's going on here. And to be honest with you, he looked, we've all seen somebody who's about to have a heart attack with their ashen, their pallor, their gray. He looked like something, like he was going to have some kind of event. While all this was going on, somebody yells out, says, the Pentagon just been hit. And at that moment, the boss paused. He looked at me and he said, what did they just say? I said, sir, I think somebody said the Pentagon was just hit. And with that, he just took the phone. He had this complete look of like resignation. And he just put the phone down. And he kind of just turned around and walked away. And it was a very sad thing. It was a look of defeat. It was sad. And he was experiencing the stress that we all were. The big boss is still on the phone because I could hear him talking. So now I'm in a quandary. I got a problem because the boss still thinks he's talking to this other guy. So I pick up the phone. I don't know how I did it. I don't know if I coughed or I cleared my voice, but I did something to indicate that the boss was no longer on the phone. And when the SAC, Bob Courtier, realized that the other guy wasn't on the phone, he said, who is this? And I said, sir, it's Bobby. He says, where did the other guy go? And I didn't want to throw him under the bus. I just said, sir, he got called away. And the SAC said, like any boss, not so politely, but he said, well, you get him back on his phone right now. So you can imagine how he said it, but he was pretty animated. You get him back on the phone right now. So yes, sir. So now I'm stuck. I'm a 5-year FBI agent in New York. I've got the SAC, the big boss, on the phone telling me to get this other guy on the phone. He's walking away like dead man walking. Got my hand over the receiver of this phone, not knowing how I'm going to solve this problem. And then somebody yelled out, oh my God. Everybody get into your desks. And it's funny, you know, you're like a sheep at that point. And I crawl under this desk, like this piece of balsa wood desk is going to save me from a steel girder coming out of the air. Of course, I don't know what's going on, but everybody's under the desks. I'm still on the phone with the boss. What I don't realize initially is where they're 3.5, 4 blocks away. He has a clear line of sight of the tower. And what he says, what's going on? I said, I don't know, boss. Somebody told us to get on the desk. And he starts seeing the tower come down. And I hear him say, oh my God, Bobby, get everybody out. Almost instantaneously with him saying that, the power of his building goes out. And this noise started happening. It sounded like, at first it was boom, 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 boom. And it started, what it was, you know, I now know in hindsight, it was each floor collapsing on the other. But of course, I'm in this building, we have no windows, we don't know what's going on. You know, I think I read somewhere where it said it took 17 seconds for the tower to collapse. I would bet my life at the time, it didn't seem like 17 seconds, it seemed like a couple minutes. It was this terrible sound. And you could feel whatever it was, you could feel the energy, you could hear the metal crying and twisting. And I remember I'm so dark, I'm under this desk, and it's so dark, there's no lights. Can't see my hand in front of my face, pitch dark. And I believe in God. I remember asking God to take care of my family. And I also remember asking him, whatever this was, to let it happen quick. I had this horrible thought of like, whatever this was I didn't want to be trapped in something. Like if this was my time, I just wanted to accept it. And I wasn't afraid. I was like, I promise you, I was at peace. I was like, I was still, it was calm. And that noise got louder and louder. And all of a sudden the noise stopped. And it was silent. It was the loudest silence I've ever heard in my life. You could have heard a pin drop. And then some seconds went by and the generators, this building kicked on. Kicked on enough where some low light came on where now you could see enough. It was very dimly lit. And now somebody said, oh my God, the tower just fell. So for me, a guy who's from New York, it's my home. When somebody says a tower fell, I'm thinking the tower fell like a tree would fall in the woods. Of course, now we all know how it came straight down, which was a miracle in and of itself. So we go back out to this lobby that I described to you earlier. And there were those thick, heavy glass doors with those big brass handles that I talked to you about, where you could see clear through them. And a group of us, like I said, there's 30, 40 people, or maybe more. And it's pitch dark, pitch black. I mean, black like you're looking at a blank monitor screen. Black, you can't see what's going on. So we went to the first set of doors from the inside, and we pushed them open. And a few of us walk the second set of doors. And we're all pausing for a minute because we don't understand. We can't process what's going on. I remember looking through this clear glass door and not processing what I'm seeing, because it's black as night. I've never seen such darkness before. Off in the distance, I remember seeing, there must have been like a construction, like I seen an orange light flashing over to the left somewhere. So we grabbed this handleless door and we slowly pushed it open. And the second that we pushed that door open and broke the lock, the air seal there, that door went whipping open, and all this debris and this dirt and the stuff from the tower started billowing in. If you can imagine, it was like, imagine a tornado. I've never been in a tornado, but that's what I imagine it would be like. And the blackness, the darkness was, the air was so thick with all the sediment and all the stuff that was still falling. There was no sunlight coming through. So when I tell you it was dark as night, it was darker than night. You couldn't see anything. But the other part, which was hard, we got this door open, and now we're struggling. A few of us we're pulling this door closed now. You could hear people out there who were crying, who were yelling for help, who were yelling out for God. And it was sad, it was horrible. And we turned around, and there happened to be a local news crew. Ironically, there was this news crew in there, and there was this guy with this big camera, and he had this intense light on the camera. I said to the guy, "Hey, we need that camera, bring it over here, we need that light." And I remember him saying, "Hey, this is a $80,000 camera." We quickly were going to get that camera. We did. And we took this camera, we put this intense light on, and we positioned it by those glass doors that I told you about in the front. And we shined the light out into the darkness outside. And what we would do is we would push that door open for a few seconds, and we would yell, "Come to the light, come to the light." And people started making their way there, and they were hurt. They were in bad shape. We started pulling these people in one at a time. And they were pretty banged up. It looked like a scene out of, I don't know, like Saving Private Ryan or something. It was pretty intense. And then as the minutes passed after that, what we started realizing was the debris was starting to settle enough where all of a sudden it wasn't as black, and it started getting lighter and lighter and gray. And at some point, we had enough visibility to get out of this building. And what it looked like was, if you've ever gone to sleep and woken up on a winter's morning when there was a blizzard, a heavy snowstorm, there was like 12 inches of this ash, looked like snow, over everything. And that 12 inches of ash, it absorbed all the acoustics. It was like quiet. It was sickly quiet. And you step out, and it's like you're walking through a foot of snow, and it's all kinds of stuff. And you look to the left, we go out, and the south tower is now gone. It's now a pile of rubble. Trucks aren't there anymore. They're on the debris. And little by little, we started getting everybody out of this building and started going north. And of course, it was not too long after, as we're leaving now, that the north tower comes down. We were far enough away from that where, when the cloud of stuff started coming, I mean, we were safe enough distance where it wasn't horrible for us. But I will tell you that, it's been, I can't believe it, next year will be 20 years, because, memories fade, but for me, I will never forget that day. And the days and weeks that followed, it brought out the best of humanity and the worst. It challenged your faith, strengthened your faith, it made you appreciate things. I remember eventually going home to my family because I couldn't talk to them because all the phones were down, and seeing my wife and kids after that. And that clothes, of course, were all stuff. And it was the best welcoming I ever received. I always felt a calling for law enforcement for my job as a police officer and for the FBI. But that day changed everything. I felt an incredible purpose to serve others. And it's not lost on me when I tell this story, and forgive me, it's a hard story to tell. Because I think about not just that day, but I think about the days and weeks that followed and all the things we had to do. And as you know, in law enforcement, you just do it. You put everything on autopilot and you just do your job. You don't question it. And I was proud to do it. My colleagues were proud to do it. But it hurts. It was a privilege for me. It made me appreciate the little things in life and to not take things for granted, to love my kids, to love my wife, and to love God. It's not by accident. You think about the story where these poor people are out in the darkness and they can't breathe. They're dying, their lungs are burning, and they're hurt and they're broken. And the symbolism of this light and yelling comes to the light. So a privilege for me to be there. It was a privilege for me to share this story with you. I've been proud to serve the FBI and law enforcement it's been over 30 years now. And I hope I've been good at doing God's will and serving other people. But for all of you who are watching this, I believe takes very special people to do very special things. And it's not by accident that you're in this line of work. It's not by accident that you're watching this video. Never take for granted the power you have to serve other people and to make a difference. Thank you for your time today, and may God bless you all. Thank you.